Hello, my dear friends. Today we are going to talk about sprint planning. Well, sprint planning, it is one of the most common ceremony of Scrum, and you would have a fair idea about what happens during a sprint planning meeting. But I'm going to tell you 5 steps to have effective sprint planning. Yes, what are the main 5 steps that you can use to have the most effective sprint planning meeting and to get the best results out of it and to prove yourself as the best Scrum Master? So let's say what are those 5 ingredients for the effective sprint planning. So these are those 5 steps. You would see capacity planning, backlog grooming, backlog prioritization. Now you would say these are not part of a sprint planning, but that's not correct. These are part of a sprint planning, though you can have these as separate meetings instead of including in the sprint planning meeting. Because if you include it in the sprint planning meeting, you may lose focus because you will have a lot to do on the agenda. So instead of doing that, my suggestion is that you have backlog grooming, backlog prioritization before a couple of days before your sprint planning meeting. Now let's look at these steps one by one. The very first is capacity planning. So here we are actually calculating the total number of man hours which will be available during the sprint planning, during the sprint planning meeting. Yeah, to calculate the total number of hours and committing the stories, but actually we are calculating the number hours to see how many people are available and how many hours are available for us for the sprint. So I have another video where I have explained in detail how you can go about calculating those man hours. But this is something which you can do either on the same day of a sprint planning, maybe 15 minutes before the sprint planning meeting, or you can just send an email to your team members and get their availability on the email. And then you can, if you want, you can have an Excel template, or there are even in Jira now, there is an extension which you can get, and you can do the capacity planning. Second and most important thing is backlog grooming. For backlog grooming, it's ideal to have it at least 2 days before the sprint planning meeting, because what happens in backlog grooming is we are actually looking at the dependencies. If there are any dependencies, we want to clear that. It also, if we have this meeting 2 days before the sprint planning meeting, the product owner gets some time to figure out if there are any doubts which the developers may have. And then again, it gives you the time to get more clarity. So on the day of a sprint planning meeting, will be more clear, and then we'll have a proper set of committed stories that we would need for the sprint. Third one is backlog prioritization. While this is one of the simplest step, but and because so you just want to prioritize the stories based on the value which you get from them. So definitely to have a good, you would select the stories which are giving you more return on the investment. So you can use different method. There are techniques like ranking, affinity method. So you can use these methods, Kenner analysis, and then prioritize the backlog, have the stories which are important come at the top. Then next comes during the meeting. Well, during the meeting, it is again important that you have a template, or you are working with a tool which is as a Scrum Master you can share on the screen. And while the developers are telling you about the total story points which will be allotted to each story, you can write it down at the same moment. And so by the end of the meeting, you will have the sprint planning summary ready. And once that is done, now comes the most important part, which is after the meeting. So again, after the meeting, it is really important that you send minutes of meeting to the team members. The minutes to meeting would include any action items that you may would have discussed in the meeting that you want to share with team members and who is responsible for those action items. Second is you'd be sharing the sprint planning meeting summary. So you will have a list of committed stories with the story points. So you can share that with the team. And if you're co-located, you can definitely organize a physical scrum board where you can have all those details. But if you are not co-located, then if you're using a tool, or maybe if you just want to have you can use PowerPoint. There are many tools available. You can use any of the visual tool to just have a Scrum board ready and you can share it with the team. So these are the 5 steps which I feel can make your sprint planning really effective. Now, there's one additional tip which I would like to share here. So once the sprint planning meeting is over, it's advisable that after the sprint planning meeting, next day, you can always go and check the burn down chart and review how your estimates how close are your estimates to the work being done. So let's say if you had allotted, say 4 or say 2 story points for a story, and next day, based on the coding, you can try and tally if your burn down chart shows what your estimates were and how close you are with the estimates. So that will give you an idea how the upcoming days of this sprint will look like and how the burn down chart is going to move. So these were the 5 steps which I feel are really important. Let me know in the comments if you feel there is something else which can be added, or if these are something which you also feel are the 5 most effective ways. So thanks for watching. Bye.